There we go. Hey. There we go. Hey. I think audio is working now. Hello, everyone. Might be a little bit loud. Move this bitch away from me. Okay. Hey. What's up? Thanks for joining. I haven't streamed in like 2-3 months. So probably most of my subs and anyone watching has not caught me on a live stream, and that's totally cool because they're super boring. So, my usual thing is pretty much reading people to sleep. In the past, I have been studying mostly for the NRC Cisco exam, so I would just read out of the official cert guide for those exams and talk about why I was so confused about literally everything with those books and shit a little bit on Cisco Press for typos. That was always fun. So, hey, Gifted Lane. Aw, thanks for coming on. Yeah, so my normal thing is super boring. I'm just warning you now. I really appreciate everyone watching, but you do not have to stay. This is going to be 2 hours of me mostly reading out of this book and maybe giving some commentary or getting confused about something, or maybe just hopping onto Wikipedia and being silent while I read it for a while. So, anyway, welcome. I'm studying Ethernet now. Like I said, normally I will stream myself studying for an exam, but I'm taking a break from that. I failed the NRC test once, and I'm not in a hurry to do it again necessarily. So at the moment, I've been able to take stock of some of my weaknesses. I've only been in networking for about 3 years now, so I have a lot to learn still, and one of my weaknesses is definitely hardware. And I realized the other day that I've assumed that I've been taking Ethernet for granted. I've assumed that, in the back of my mind, I know what Ethernet is, but I still kind of don't. And every time I think about Ethernet, I'm thinking it's hardware, which I know is not accurate. So, anyway, with that in mind, I wanted to find a cool topic that really, was like right in front of me and right in front of most of us and visible, but not super like, I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about it. Saying I'm going to study Ethernet, I realize is basically like saying I'm going to study IGPs, right? Like, which one are you going to study? There's so much, right? So I know there's a lot of flavors of Ethernet. I don't really know anything about them. I think I probably know just barely enough to know how much I don't know. So anyway, this is the book. You see it over that way. This is the book that I'm going to be reading out of for now. But if anyone has any extra materials, I've already gotten some great suggestions from other people on Twitter. So I won't be necessarily just sticking to this book, but it may be my main source of information, at least for the time being. So, and I just realized that we have like viewing options in Acrobat, so perhaps I can make this a little less horrible. Full screen? Oh, Jesus Christ, hang on. That wasn't good. You know what, we're just going to stick with this and we're going to have icons on the side of the screen. Whatever. Hello, fellowship birds. Hi, Andy. Yeah, okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about the book cover first before we dive into networking. Let's just talk about this beautiful, it's an octopus. And I think that's great. I feel like that's incredibly appropriate for Ethernet. It could be appropriate for some other networking things too. Basically, anything that has tendrils could work for networking, but this is good. This is a solid choice by O'Reilly. By the way, O'Reilly, please don't sue me for doing this. I bought the book. I promise. Legal tender has been exchanged for this PDF and for its hardcover, which is coming in at some point in the first week of January. So this is a huge octopus. He won't fit in the entire screen. Well, yeah, I guess he will. I have to scroll down for the rest of it though. So Anyway, Ethernet, the definitive guide. And I was going to give them a compliment on the title, but I am a huge stickler for grammatical, punctuational accuracy, and it bothers me so much that there's no colon after the word Ethernet. Like, it needs to have a colon, because then it's like Ethernet, the definitive guide. Yeah. But so O'Reilly, please take note. I'm always available to be a proofreader, or whatever you call people that read books and fix them. Anyway, Ethernet, the definitive guide, designing and managing local area networks. Woohoo! By Charles E. Spurgeon Joann Zimmerman. All right, I'm going to scroll a bit away from the legal crap and the table of contents. All right, before I get into the bedtime story, how's everybody doing? IGP, isn't it old technology? Sorry, I'm going way back in the chat. I apologize. I'm not used to anyone giving a shit about these streams. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. By IGP, I meant interior gateway protocols. My bad. Maybe people refer to them as something else. I could have sworn we called them IGPs, like OSPF, EIGRP, ISIS. Although, yeah, you're right. Maybe it's IGRP. Whatever, it doesn't matter. There's interior gateway protocols is what I meant by IGP. Let's see. Yeah, tell me if there's another way to refer to interior gateway protocol, interior routing IRPs maybe? Is it ERPs? Or IGPs? Anyway, who reads the preface? I read the preface. Come on, man. By the way, I don't know if I need to say this. I'm guessing there's no children watching this stream, but just in case, or in case you're an adult who doesn't like this, I cuss a lot. So, well, I say that and then I'm not going to say one F word, but I cuss a lot. So just if you don't like that, I'm sorry. That's just how it's going to be. So you've been warned. Here's me judging how old everyone is based on their chat messages. Beautiful. Yeah. RIP is my protocol of choice. No comment. Which version of RIP? Some people use RIP. Some places use RIP. I couldn't tell you who, but I also have like no experience in this field, so what am I doing? All right, cussing is preferred. Thanks, AJ. All right, here we go. I'm gonna read the fucking preface, and you're just gonna have to fucking deal with it, okay? Because I may or may not have peeked at this beforehand just a little bit. It's a good fucking preface, all right? So give Mr. Spurgeon and Ms. Zimmerman the benefit of the doubt here. Here we go. Bedtime story. Are you tucked in? Are you ready? It's the Ethernet bedtime story. Okay. This is a book about Ethernet. Wow, it starts out like a fairy tale too. I love it. Okay. This is a book about Ethernet, the world's most popular network technology, which allows you to connect a variety of computers together with a low cost and extremely flexible network system. Fantastic. Ethernet is found on a wide variety of devices. Okay, a lot of this is going to be shit y'all already know. If you're a network engineer, you will already know this, and I'm sorry. But I really love the magic of this preface. So let's keep going. It's found on a wide variety of devices. And this widespread support, coupled with its low cost and high flexibility, are major reasons for its popularity. Okay, we all know this. Great. The Ethernet standard has grown to over 3,700 pages. That's why I haven't read it. That's why. It covers a multitude of Ethernet technologies designed for multiple environments. Ethernet is used to build home networks, office and campus network systems, as well as wide area networks that span cities and countries. Yeah, this is definitely like, y'all already know this. Blah, blah, blah. Ethernet is magical. There's Ethernet systems designed for networking in neighborhood, networking inside automobile. Ooh, hang on. That's cool. Networking. Okay. I'm going to back up because I'm just talking over myself. There are Ethernet systems designed for networking in neighborhood, as well as Ethernets designed for networking inside automobiles to link the multiple computers found there these days. I knew there was stuff in cars, and I know there are computers in cars, but for some reason it never occurred to me that like they have to talk to each other, and you probably need a network for that, right? Anyway, that's really cool. The goal of this book is to provide a comprehensive and practical source for information, blah, 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 varieties of Ethernet. Okay, we don't need to go through all the varieties of Ethernet, I'm sorry, we don't need to go through all the speeds of Ethernet, I'll say that. To provide the most accurate information possible, we referred to the complete set of official Ethernet standards while writing this book. We, Charles E. Spurgeon and Joann Zimmerman, we toiled, sweat, blood, and tears. We read the entire 3,700 fucking pages so we could write this goddamn book for you. Be grateful. This is what they're saying. Our experience includes working with Ethernet technology since the early 1980s. Okay. And many hard-won lessons in network design and operation based on that experience have made their way into this edition. This is the blood, sweat, and tears of Spurgeon and Zimmerman. They suffered so that we may learn. All right, beautiful. Thanks, guys. All right, I'm not actually going to spend too much time on this because y'all already know this. I already know this. And I really want to get to chapter 1. Ethernet is everywhere. We already know that. Not everything uses Ethernet, but many, 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 many things do. And for that reason sorry, I can't speak. The reason for that is it's very cost effective. It's incredibly scalable. We've had all these, they talk about all the different like speeds of Ethernet basically that have come out over the years. 10 gig in 2002. We had the 40 and 100 gig systems in 2010 only. That actually is like at a time of my life that I can actually remember, unlike 2002. All of this progress in Ethernet capabilities makes it possible for a network manager to provide high-speed backbone systems. Blah, blah, blah. This is wonderful. So cost, it's really cheap. Scalability, it's incredibly scalable and fast, and it's very reliable as well. Simple and robust and reliable. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Ethernet. I actually did not know that it's been around since the 80s, but I shouldn't be surprised about that, I guess. They talk about structured cabling. And I don't know if that's like a term that I should know or if they're just calling it like cabling that's built out and designed for a specific purpose, if that's how they're referring to that kind of infrastructure. I don't know. This makes it possible to install a standards-based cabling system for Ethernet that's highly reliable and easy to manage. Okay. Yeah, okay. So originally this stuff was developed for the telephone system and they just sort of like adapted it to internet stuff, which I'm pretty sure most of us know. Networks inside rockets. Yeah, I'm sorry, this isn't directly relatable to rockets. So I'll talk about that at some point. You can ask questions. I can't give you too many details on the rockets, just general information, but I can tell you how awesome my job is. I'm definitely allowed to say that. All right, so we have another great thing about Ethernet. We have a lot of tools to manage it. So y'all know about SNMP. We have sorts of capabilities in Ethernet switches that'll help us monitor and do the things that we need to do to troubleshoot and all that crap. All right, design for reliability. The goal of this book, I don't care. I already know the goal of this book. Access to the internet and information. It's so beautiful when I see like somebody, I know you're supposed to, right? Like it's the grammatically correct way to do it, but capitalizing the word internet is just so, it's like reading the Canterbury Tales. It's poetry. It's beautiful. It's how it should be. Let's see. Very flexible. We have a wide range of stuff. Flexibility has a price. The many varieties of Ethernet each have their own components and their own configuration rules, which can make the life of a network designer complex. So in other words, instead of complex, the word is shitty. Designing and implementing a reliable Ethernet system requires that you understand how all the bits and pieces fit together and that you follow the official guidelines for the configuration of media systems. And then the book's going to help us with that. And then it goes through, okay, I'm definitely not going to read this out, like all of it. Downtime is expensive. They go through a really simple math problem to show how expensive it is for your fucking network to be down. And I feel like this should be something that like your manager or like an executive who's like not been an engineer for 20 years and acts like they know what they're talking about, but they don't, you know, like they've ingested all the buzzwords. They need this like this little math problem to prove to them, yes, you need to like invest in your network and shit. So I'm not going to do that because y'all already know that. How to use this book? I don't care. I know how I'm going to use this book, and you can't tell me what to do. Organization of the book. We have an introduction to Ethernet. We're going to go through a description of structured cabling. A description of each of the Ethernet media systems. That's the meat I want to get to. The basics of Ethernet media signaling. That's going to be really cool. Part 3, we're going to have a description of structured cabling systems and the components and cables used in building the Ethernet system. Okay, so we'll actually find out about that structured cabling, that they like to use those terms often. And twisted pair and fiber optics. Okay. Part 4, we'll have the fundamentals of networking design. Very cool. And then we're going to have 5 and 6. 5 is Ethernet performance and troubleshooting. And then 6 we don't care about because it's the glossary. Disclaimer: the authors assume no responsibility for errors or omissions or for damages resulting from the use of information contained herein. Yada yada. Okay, cool. You're off the hook, Spurgeon and Zimmerman. Thank you. Don't care about acknowledgements. Scroll. I'm really sorry. There we go. Chapter 1. Anybody asleep yet? I tried to make it really exciting for you. Let's see. ITAR. Yeah. TLDR. Thank you. Holy Sheep Sheet. I love that username. I love it so much. Ethernet does lots of things. Ethernet will screw you in the most unexpected ways. Ethernet is cheap and people do absolutely horrible things with it. Beautiful. Yes, this session is supposedly being recorded, although I'm going to admit I don't know where it's going. It's going somewhere on my desktop, so we'll find out if I can I'll upload it to YouTube later. I am also Track a Pacer on YouTube, by the way, so if you want to take a look at this later, you do not have to stay up until like 2 a.m. or whatever time you were going to have to stay up to catch it all. Amazon says this is frequently bought together with Ethernet switches. The book and Network Warrior. Ooh. Can definitely recommend the Network Warrior book. Absolutely. I second that. First edition. Okay. Wow. Yeah, Network Warrior is badass, and I'm ashamed to admit I haven't finished reading the book, but I definitely have my own copy, and it's is worth it. If you're gonna spend money on that. On a book, I mean. Yeah. If you turn the volume down just a little bit so that when I laugh it's not too like grating, you can definitely fall asleep to this stream. All right, let's get going. Chapter 1, the evolution of Ethernet. Oh, Riley, please don't sue me. Okay. Ethernet is used to build networks from the smallest to the largest, and from the simplest to the most complex. It connects home computers and other household devices, but it also connects the building networks that support servers. This is such a lovely tale. I really love this. It's really giving me like fairy tale vibes. I'm not kidding. Okay. It also connects the building networks that support servers and wired desktop computers, as well as the wireless access points that support smartphones, laptops, and tablets. Ethernet provides the connections that make up the worldwide internet and connect the internet to our workplace and our homes. It's so beautiful. Oh. Ethernet's longevity is remarkable. The memo describing the network technology that became Ethernet was written in May 1973. Holy shit, I definitely wasn't alive. There have been many changes as computers have evolved over the years, but Ethernet continues to be the network technology of choice. This is because Ethernet has been constantly reinvented, evolving new capabilities to stay current with the rapid transformations in the computer industry, and in the process, becoming the most widely used network technology in the world. Such a pretty little, what a great little introduction there. All right, the history of the Ethernet, the one Ethernet, the history of Ethernet. On May 22nd, yes, another once upon a time, on May 22nd, 1973, while working at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, or PARC, in California, Bob Metcalfe wrote a memo describing the network system he had invented for interconnecting advanced computer workstations called Xerox Altos, making it possible to send data between them and to high-speed laser printers. The Xerox Alto was the first personal computer workstation with graphical user interfaces. Can we just say GUI? They didn't even have GUI in parentheses there. And a mouse pointing device. The Park inventions also included the first laser printers for personal computers and, with the creation of Ethernet, the first high-speed local area network, see there we have it, LAN, technology to link everything together. This was a remarkable computing environment for the time, since the early 1970s was an era in which computing was dominated by large and expensive mainframe computers. Few places could afford to buy and support mainframes, and few people knew how. Oh, please scroll. Sorry. How to use them. Sorry, let me reread that. Few places could afford to buy and support mainframes, and few people knew how to use them, but many people knew how to hack them. The inventions at Xerox PARC helped bring about a revolutionary change in the world of computing. A major driver of this revolutionary change was the use of Ethernet LANs to enable communication among computers. Combined with the development of the internet and the web, it's so beautiful. Internet and web are capitalized here. It's just the use of web is like reading fucking Beowulf at this point. This new model of interaction between computers brought a new world of communications technology into existence. I wonder if there will ever be a book written about like the history of anything that doesn't. I guess you can't, right? You have to say web capitalized. You have to capitalize internet if you're talking about the history of the internet. The Aloha Network. All right, I don't know about this. Bob Metcalfe's 1973 Ethernet memo describes a networking system inspired by an earlier experiment in networking called the Aloha Network. Jesus Christ, it's like the internet actually started like 5 million years ago, and like every 1,000 years, it was like, actually that was a memo about an earlier technology. You know, like it just keeps going back farther and farther and farther. All right. So the Aloha Network began at the University of Hawaii in the late 1960s when Norman Abramson and his colleagues developed a radio network for communications among the Hawaiian Islands. That's pretty dope. The system was an early experiment in the development of mechanisms for sharing a common communications channel. In this case, a common radio channel. Okay, so radio. Okay. That downtime is expensive section sounds like it's going to offset the cost of buying the book. Hilarious. Sorry, I just caught that comment. Why is the history section debatable? Zado. I'm assuming that's how I say your name. Looks like the free Kindle sample goes through the end of chapter 4. Damn! Okay. Hey, can y'all read this at all? I was really hoping that like it would be visible to people. At least better than fucking RPAN. RPAN sucks balls, let me tell you. You can't it's the size of like your phone, right? Like it's a phone screen sort of dimensions, and so you got like you can't really share a PDF very well with that. It's always a challenge for me. Why spend all this time studying? Al Gore invented the intranet. Did he, though? Did he? I spend this time studying because I don't know shit. Why else do you think I do it? History section is debatable, similar in the same context of who invented the mouse or the GUI. What points is it debatable on? I'm curious. Okay, cool. So someone on their phone can read it. Thank you. All have awesome usernames. I'm so jealous. Avid Pontoon is really badass. Okay, that makes sense. So the history section is debatable because several at least different people invented several different things, all somewhat similar around the same time, is what it sort of seems like. That was a lot of S's for me in one go. Well, all right, back to the Aloha Network. The Aloha protocol was very simple. An Aloha station could send whatever it liked and then wait for an acknowledgement. If an ACK wasn't received within a short amount of time, the station would assume that another station had transmitted simultaneously, causing a collision. Oh, that sounded familiar. A collision in which the combined transmissions were garbled so that the receiving station did not hear them and did not return an acknowledgement. Upon detecting a collision, both transmitting stations would choose a random back-off time and then retransmit their packets with a good probability of success. However, as traffic increased on the Aloha channel, the collision rate would rapidly increase as well. Sounding very, very familiar. Abramson calculated that this system, known as pure Aloha, damn, I love that, could achieve a maximum channel utilization of about 18% due to the rapidly increasing rate of collisions under increasing load. Another system called slotted Aloha was developed that assigned transmission slots and used a master clock to synchronize transmissions. This increased the maximum utilization of the channel to about 37%. In 2007, Abramson received the IEEE's Alexander Graham Bell Medal for, quote, contributions to the development of modern data networks through fundamental work in random multiple access. Good for you. Good for you, Abramson. That's pretty awesome. The name Pure Aloha, it just sounds like such a good name. It's such a good name that it sounds like it should be the name for, like, you know, a strain of weed or something, right? This shit's dope, man. It's Pure Aloha. All right. Metcalf realized that he could improve on the Aloha system of arbitrating access to a shared communications channel. He developed a new system that included a mechanism that detected when a collision occurred. So, collision detection. Supposedly, this man invented collision detection. That's pretty cool. I hope this book reveals why frames weren't given TTLs like packets were. They were like, fuck frames in particular. Oh, man. All right. The system included listen before talk, in which stations listened for activity, or carrier sense, before transmitting, and supported access to a shared channel by multiple stations, which meant multiple access. Put all these components together, and you can see why the original channel access protocol specified for Ethernet is called carrier sense multiple access with collision detection. There's our roll credits. CSMACD. So that's where that comes from. Pretty cool, actually. I remember learning about that in the CCNA days. Metcalf also developed a more sophisticated backoff algorithm, which, in combination with the CSMACD protocol, allowed the Ethernet system to function at up to 100% load. It's a pretty big difference from 37%. In late 1972, Metcalf and his Xerox PARC colleagues, alarms. Metcalf and his Xerox PARC colleagues developed the first experimental Ethernet network system to interconnect Xerox Altos to one another and to servers and laser printers. The signal clock for the experimental interface was derived from the Altos system clock, resulting in a data transmission rate on the experimental Ethernet of 2.94 megabits per second. Where did the name Ethernet come? Oh, it's literally right, the next sentence. Metcalf's first experimental network was called the Alto Aloha Network. Can you hang on for just a second, real quick? Has anyone played Hypnospace Outlaw? If you haven't, you should immediately. But there is I won't spoil it for you, other than to say, like, it's sort of it takes place in like a sort of alternate universe a little bit, and there is a just a few things are different. And one of the things that's different is the history of music and the popular music at the time that, in game that you're playing the game. And at one point you come across like a whole like page, a whole website that like gives you the history of popular music up to that point. And it's just super interesting because I'm just thinking about what would have happened if instead of being called Ethernet, it had stayed Alto Aloha Network. I'm not shitting on that name, but it is incredibly different and arguably a very different vibe than Ethernet. So, I wonder. Anyway, in 1973, Metcalf changed the name to Ethernet to make it clear that the system could support any computer, not just Altos. Okay, very inclusive of you. And to point out that his new network mechanisms had evolved well beyond the Aloha system. He chose to base the name on the word ether as a way of describing an essential feature of the system. The physical medium, i.e., a cable, carries bits to all stations, much the same way that the old luminiferous ether. God, I swear to God, I'm not high or anything right now, but there's something about all the words that are being used in this book. I'm just finding really awesome, like, phrases and words. Who says luminiferous? And then you add it to the word ether? That's the coolest fucking. That's so cool. All right. I'm sorry. I'm getting lost in the sauce a little bit. He chose to base the name on the word ether as a way of describing an essential feature of the system. The physical medium, or a cable, carries bits to all stations, much the same way that the old luminiferous ether was once thought to propagate electromagnetic waves through space. Thus, Ethernet was born. Amazing. Luminiferous ether. I don't know what the fuck that is. Apparently I should know. It was a thing at some point. But it's very cool sounding. Anyway, in 1976, Metcalf drew the diagram shown in true to form. This diagram is not on the same page. Reminiscent of Cisco Press. I'm sure it'll be on the next page. Figure 1-1. Okay, Metcalf drew the diagram that we're going to see in a second, and it was used in his presentation at the National Computer Conference in June of that year. That's so cute. The National Computer Conference. The drawing uses the original terms for describing Ethernet components. And let's see it. Drum roll, please. Da, da, da. Okay, here's his. I really wish I could, like, just click on that and it would pop out. Whoa. Here we go. Here we go. Make it a little bit. Hey. Got decent handwriting for a tech guy. All right. Interface, controller, the ether. This is the ether right here. Or medium, I guess. I don't fucking know. Okay. Zoom back out here. In July 1976, Bob Metcalf and David Boggs published their landmark paper, Ethernet, : See, this is how you should use a colon in your titles. Thank you, Metcalf and Boggs. Ethernet, : distributed packet switching for local computer networks. It's flawless. In late 1977, Robert M. Metcalf, David R. Boggs, Charles P. Thacker, and Butler W. Lampson received U.S. patent number 4,063,220 on Ethernet for a, quote, multi-point data communication system with collision detection. Okay. This is 1976. We're not even in the 80s yet. Jesus Christ. All right. At this point, Xerox wholly owned the Ethernet system. Y'all remember Xerox? I almost remember Xerox. Are they still around? The next stage in the evolution of the world's most popular computer network was to liberate Ethernet from the confines of a single corporation and make it a worldwide standard. We got a free Ethernet. Shit. Some revolutionary talk. Okay, reinventing Ethernet. No matter how well designed a network system is, it won't help you much if you can only use it with a single vendor's equipment. A network technology has to be supported by the widest variety of equipment possible to provide you with the greatest flexibility. For maximum utility, your network must be vendor neutral, i.e. capable of interworking with all types of computers and other devices without being vendor specific. Judging you if you know Xerox. Zadell, how old are you? Because why judge? Don't judge. Do you know your ether vibes? Everyone was on drugs in the 70s, hence the groovy verbiage. Yes. Why didn't I think of that? Luminiferous ether is a good strain name. It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, but think about how cool, think about how chill it would be if we plugged in Aloha cables. Yeah, just like Avid Pontoon said. I'm just going to plug an Aloha cable into my PC. So instead of Ethernet cable, it's Aloha cable. Yeah. I like it, you know? It sounds really chill. Oh my God. Paracosmic, do you actually work at Xerox? That's cool. I'm really sorry. I don't know what Xerox does these days. I'm pretty sure they're probably doing something. If they're still around, they have to be doing something, right? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to shit on your company. I was just trying to make a joke about old people. Sorry. I can make a joke. I can make a joke. I can make so many jokes that I won't. Steve Jobs stole glass touching tech from Xerox. Did he really? I actually, for all the talk and stuff, like I don't know shit about Steve Jobs. I don't know anything about. I mean, I know a little bit, but not really. I don't even know, I think, as much as your average person about Steve Jobs. I know Apple. I know he wore black turtlenecks. I know some people don't like him that much or didn't. And I know he died of something not good. Anyway, Xerox sells more t-shirts to hipsters than cameras now. You know what? Yes, Andy, aloha does mean hello and goodbye, and I love that's why one of the reasons why it'd be so good for it'd be so good if it were not Ethernet, but it were called aloha instead. Hello and goodbye. You're sending messages. It's perfect. It's so poignant. I love it. Yay, CompTIA. Sick. Good luck on your A+. That's badass. Certs. All right, I'm sorry. I just got totally lost in the sauce again. Okay, a network technology has to be supported by the widest variety of equipment possible to provide you with the greatest flexibility. All right, no shit. With maximum utility, your network must be vendor neutral, which means it can work with all kinds of devices, not just one vendor's stuff. This was not the way this was not the way things worked in the 1970s, kids, when computers were expensive and networking technology was exotic and proprietary. All right, that's fair. It was new. I like VR now a little bit. Bob Metcalf understood that a revolution in computer technology is. Sorry, I'm just making up words at this point, inserting. A revolution in computer communications required a networking technology that everyone could use. In 1979, he set out to make Ethernet an open standard. Oh, God bless you, Metcalf. And Xerox agreed to join a multi vendor consortium for the purposes of standardizing an Ethernet system that any company could use. Thanks, Xerox! Good guy, Xerox. The era of open computer communications based on Ethernet technology formally began in 1980 when the Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC, Intel, and Xerox, all together they're called the DIX Consortium, the DIX Consortium. That's what I'm going to say. I don't give a fuck if that's what you're supposed to say. It's too good. The DIX Consortium. Announced the first standard for 10 megabit per second Ethernet. The original DIC standard was not copyrighted, allowing anyone to copy and use it. It's probably DIX, isn't it? Just can't not. Steve Jobs and others did great at marketing inventions by Park when Park failed to do so. The book Fumbling the Future explains this in great detail in this very cool read. Okay, cool. Thanks, Javier. Very interesting. All right. I'm sorry, I just get so lost. This book. This standard made technology. Okay, so the original DIX, the original DIX. I'll stop it. I'm sorry. The original DIX standard was not copyrighted, allowing anyone to copy and use it. Thank you. Thank you, consortium. This standard made the technology available to anyone who wanted to use it, producing an open system. As part of this effort, Xerox agreed to license its patented Ethernet technology for a mere $1,000 to anyone who wanted it. You could have just given it away for free, but I can understand being a little gotta make some money, I guess. Xerox. In 1982, how much is $1,000 in whatever year this was? Hang on, hang on. 1,000 USD, 1980 to 2021. Help me. That's the equivalent of 33.73 ish. I think. Inflation cal. Yeah, 33.73.16 today, just as a reference. Okay, so Xerox was charging $3,400 for their fucking technology. Xerox also gave up its trademark on the Ethernet name. Bless you, Xerox. Thank you, benevolent ruler. As a result, the Ethernet standard became the world's first open multi-vendor LAN standard. It's like the benevolent tyrant or something. I don't know. I should probably know of a story that's like this, but I don't. The idea of sharing proprietary computer technology in order to arrive at a common standard to benefit everyone, was a radical notion for the computer industry in the late 1970s. We don't got room for no communists sharing technologies, but they did it. It's a tribute to Bob Metcalfe's vision that he realized the importance of making Ethernet an open standard. Yes, thank you, Bob Metcalfe. As Metcalfe put it, the invention of Ethernet as an open, non-proprietary, industry standard local network was perhaps even more significant than the invention of Ethernet technology itself. I think I agree with that. From the limited knowledge that I have based on just this book, I agree with that. Making something open source might be more important than the thing itself. So, chomp on that. In 1979, Metcalfe started a company to help commercialize Ethernet. He believed that computers from multiple vendors ought to be able to communicate compatibly over a common networking technology, making them more useful and, in turn, opening up a vast new set of capabilities for the users. I don't know if you can see this, but they've italicized the COM part of these three words. Computer communication compatibility was the goal, leading Metcalfe to name his new company 3Com. Okay. Damn, this guy had a vision and he was not going to let anyone stop him. It's pretty badass. Reinventing Ethernet for Twisted Pair Media. Now it gets interesting. Ethernet prospered during the 1980s, but as a result, my brain's just inserting words that aren't there. But as the number of computers being networked continues to grow, the problems inherent in the original coaxial cable media system became more acute. Installing coax cables in buildings was a difficult task, and connecting computers to the cables was also a challenge. Yeah, see, this is one of my faults, is that I think of Ethernet and I think of just the copper cable, the RJ45, twisted pair in there somewhere. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it can be. That's all it ever was or will be. And that's incredibly inaccurate. It's a technology, right? I mean, it's a protocol, so it can use a variety of different media, but originally we were using coax cable. So interesting. Installing coax cables in buildings was difficult, and connecting computers to it was also a challenge. A thin coax cable system was introduced in the mid-1980s that made it a little easier to build a media system and connect computers to it, but it was still difficult to manage Ethernet systems based on coax cable. Coax Ethernet systems employ a bus topology in which every computer sends Ethernet signals over a single bus cable. Sorry, I have to read that again. My brain didn't process it. Coaxial Ethernet systems employ a bus topology in which every computer sends Ethernet signals over a single bus cable. A failure anywhere on the cable brings the entire network system to a halt, and troubleshooting a cable problem can take a long time. The invention of twisted pair Ethernet in the late 1980s, initially developed as a vendor innovation, made it possible to build Ethernet systems based on the much more reliable star-wired cabling technology, in which the computers are all connected to a central point. These systems are much easier to install and manage, and troubleshooting is much easier and quicker as well. The use of twisted pair cabling was a major change or reinvention of Ethernet. Twisted pair Ethernet led to a vast expansion in the use of Ethernet. The Ethernet market took off and has never looked back. This is really fun. FYI, though, this is not just a book on the history of Ethernet. I keep wanting to say the Ethernet, like it's the internet, but it's the Ethernet, and it's not. This is just chapter 1. The rest of it's going to get into technical stuff, I'm fairly certain. Metcalfe won the IEEE Medal of Honor in 1996. I'm sure I'll be awarded that honor someday. I hope so, Crash Void. I don't know who you are, but I hope that for you. I want that for you. Live your best life. Invent networking technologies. All right. Did I read this second? No, I didn't. In the early 1990s, a structured cabling system standard for twisted pair cabling systems in buildings was developed that made it possible to provide building-wide twisted pair systems based on high reliability, low-cost cabling adopted from the telephone industry. Ethernet based on twisted pair media installed according to the structured cabling standard became the most widely used network technology. These Ethernet systems are reliable, easy to install and manage, and support rapid troubleshooting for problem resolution. All right. I think I've heard they've said that like 5 million times that Ethernet is amazing and nothing can stop it. Reinventing Ethernet for 100 megabits per second. The original Ethernet standard of 1980 described a system that operated at 10 megabits per second. This was pretty fast for the time, but Ethernet interfaces in the early 1980s were expensive due to the buffer memory and high-speed components required. Throughout the 1980s, Ethernet was considerably faster than the computers connected to it, making a good match between the network and the computers it supported. However, computer technology continued to evolve, and by the early 1990s, ordinary computers had become fast enough to provide a major traffic load to a 10 megabit per second Ethernet channel. Much to the surprise of those who thought that the original CSMA CD-based Ethernet system was limited to 10 megabits per second, Ethernet was reinvented to increase its speed by a factor of 10. Based on technology developed by Grand Junction Networks, which was later acquired by Cisco, heyo, the new standard created the 100 megabits per second fast Ethernet system, which was formally adopted in 1995. Fast Ethernet provides both twisted pair and fiber optic media systems, and it became widely adopted, first for network backbones and later for general computing. With the invention of fast Ethernet, multi-speed twisted pair Ethernet interfaces could be built, operating at either 10 or 100 megs. These interfaces are able, through an auto-negotiation protocol, to automatically set their speed. We've heard of that. This made the migration from 10 megs to 100 megs Ethernet systems easy to accomplish. Hooray! Any reason to read an entire textbook on Ethernet? Well, Crash Void, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but yes. I just wanted to study it, man. I just want to know what it's all about because I realize I'm taking Ethernet for granted. Um, in CCNA land, they sort of tell you they dive in just a teeny. You dip your toes, I guess, into it a little bit, but you don't really learn the little workings of it, the signaling, what's going on the physical layer, or at least I didn't, and I would like to know. And I study better on the internet in front of whoever wants to fucking endure this. So that's why I'm doing this right now. I also, don't feel bad about providing, fall asleep services to anyone who needs them. So you're welcome to just put this on low, get bored, fall asleep to it. It is fine. Hello, welcome. Yeah. I mean, I find Ethernet surprisingly interesting the little I know about it. I just, I've been taking it for granted and I'd really like to know how it works. I'm getting into more of a hardware-based role at the moment at work, and I am interested. This isn't directly, related, but I don't know. I just was thinking about it. I saw this book and I thought, hey, why the hell not? Yeah, okay. Back in the day, it should start with physics and data communications classes. Yeah, you know what? I want everything easy, so I'm not going to do that. I probably should take some physics classes, but I don't have fucking time for that. So I'm reading a book that will explain it all to me, and I'll know everything immediately after I read this book. All right. No, I'm not mean enough to scream at anyone. I promise. I won't do that. Yeah, you know what? Just think of this as like a little podcast. I just happen to also be on video. Soak up the knowledge as you fall asleep. I had a friend, quick tangent. I had a friend when I was like 9. I don't know where she got this idea from. She probably just like heard someone say, I don't know. I don't know if there's any like solidity to this, validity rather to this idea, but I had this friend when I was 9 who was like obsessed with like falling asleep to the radio because she wanted to learn the words to all the songs. So whenever I had a sleepover at her house, she'd fucking turn on the radio, and I'm a really late sleeper, and so I couldn't fucking sleep. And when she fell asleep, I'd always turn it off. But anyway, she was like convinced that we would both learn all the words to all the songs if we just fell asleep to the radio. And I have no idea if that's a thing that can happen and if falling asleep to something actually makes you hear it. I have a feeling that it doesn't because I fall asleep to Netflix all the time. And I don't remember shit about what was playing when I was falling asleep. Anyway, enough of enough of my stupid childhood tangent. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, with the invention of fast Ethernet, multi-speed twisted pair Ethernet interfaces could be built operating at 10 or 100 megs. These interfaces are able, through an auto-negotiation protocol, to automatically set their speed. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, reinventing Ethernet for 1,000 megs a second. Megabits per second, I should specify. In 1998, Ethernet was reinvented again, this time to increase its speed by another factor of 10. The Gigabit Ethernet standard describes a system that operates at the speed of 1 billion bits per second over fiber optic and twisted pair media. The invention of Gigabit Ethernet made it possible to provide faster backbone networks as well as connections to high-performance servers. The twisted pair standard for Gigabit Ethernet provides high-speed connections to the desktop when needed. Multi-speed twisted pair Ethernet interfaces were built to operate at 10, 100, or 1,000 megabits per second using the auto negation. I can't say it. Auto negotiation protocol to automatically configure their speed. And then here we get into higher speeds. So, not content to rest on its laurels, Ethernet has continued to expand. You say it like Ethernet is like this evolving animal. Ethernet has continued to expand beyond the original design constraints. Although it's not possible to support the original CSMA CD shared channel mode of operation at these higher speeds, that doesn't matter. Virtually all Ethernet connections now operate in full duplex mode, which doesn't rely on the CSMA CD access control system. The 10 gigabit per second Ethernet standard, published in 2003, defined a set of fiber optic media systems operating at 10 billion bits per second. A twisted pair 10 gig standard was developed and published in 2006, providing 10 billion bits per second over category 6A category 6A. This is so weird hearing everything like spelled out. Cat 6A twisted pair cables. All right, so Cat 6A was with the 10 gig standard. Multi-speed twisted pair Ethernet interfaces can now operate at 10, 100, and 1,000 megabits per second and 10 gigs per second. The 40 and 100 gigabit per second Ethernet standard, which was published in 2010, which was not that long ago, defined both 40 and 100 gig per second media systems. Since then, media systems have been evolving to carry 40 and 100 gig per second Ethernet signals over fiber optic cables and short-range copper coax cables. Cool beans. We got to be almost done with chapter 1, right? Oh, Jesus, nope. Reinventing Ethernet for new capabilities. Ethernet innovations include not only new speeds and new media systems, but also new Ethernet capabilities. I'm trying to zoom in there. Oh, nope, too much. Too much. Sorry, okay. For example, the standardization of full duplex Ethernet in 1997 made it possible for two devices connected over a full duplex link to simultaneously send and receive data, thus allowing a 10 gig link to provide a maximum of 20 gigs per second of data throughput. Excuse me. The auto negotiation standard complements the invention of twisted pair Ethernet by providing the ability for switch ports and the computers connected to those ports to discover whether they support full duplex mode, and if they do, to automatically select that mode of operation, as well as automatically setting the highest link speed supported by both devices. Another innovation has been the Power over Ethernet, or PoE standard, which uses the Ethernet cable that's providing data to also power the device connected to an Ethernet switch. I personally think PoE is really cool, and I don't fucking understand how it works. I'm hoping they go into those details a bit because I think it's really fascinating. This has become a widely adopted method for deploying wireless access points connected to Ethernet switch ports and drawing their power from the same cable that they use to send and receive Ethernet frames. Yep, being a light sleeper is a fucking curse and I hate it. If I could only change one thing about myself, I would change being a light sleeper to being a moderately heavy sleeper. I don't want to like sleep through thunderstorms or like fires or like tornadoes, but I do want to sleep through like someone's fucking radio downstairs or like children yelling outside while I'm trying to sleep. Yes, it's an evolving animal. It sounds like Ethernet took on a life of its own at some point. It doesn't need anyone to invent stuff for it anymore. It just decides what it wants to be. Does reading out loud help you take it in better? Yes. So as fascinating as I find some technical subjects, it's hard for me. The only books I can read and like absorb well are like just the pure fun ones where I'm not learning shit and I'm just reading some bullshit in a fantasy world, or like, Stephen King has written a horrible story with a killer clown. That's the kind of stuff that I can like devour. Technical books, not so much. And at a certain point, I started studying for certification exams by streaming and reading shit out loud and sussing it out. And that turned into a really good thing for me. So I'm trying out something new. I don't have anything specifically for a certification exam right at the moment, but I do want to learn about Ethernet. And so I figure I'll drag whoever wants to be drug along with me on this journey. What are your favorite novels? I love It. Stephen King's book It. I also really like The Shining. House of Leaves. What else? I enjoyed Game of Thrones quite a bit, but I've sort of given in to existential despair there because he's never gonna write that fucking book. What else? Oh, The Road by Cormac McCarthy and also Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I have an author crush on Cormac McCarthy. Blood Meridian is one of my like just the most impressive books of all time in my opinion. I've never met anyone else who like agrees with me or has read Blood Meridian, but Blood Meridian is a fucking weird ass masterpiece. So those are my books, I guess. I've been going on sort of a fantasy kick lately when I can, and I'm reading the Mistborn series, trying to finish the last book by Brandon Sanderson. He's a little bit too, I don't know, I don't like how he writes women, so I'm sort of slogging through this last one because I don't like how he writes his main fucking character is a woman, and I don't think he writes her well. But he's super famous for writing fantasy, so apparently a lot of other people think he does it well. Yikes. But anyway, they're good. Like the world building in his books is good. So, whatever. Blood Meridian is hard to read. I gave up. Give it another try. Fucking do it. It's fucking amazing. It is weird to read though. It's no, it ain't no Harry Potter. I'll give you that. It's an incredibly violent book. For anyone who has no fucking clue what Blood Meridian is or has tried to read it, it's an incredibly violent book and it doesn't really have a main character at all. So, if that tells you anything, it's fucking weird. Also, any short stories by Miranda July are fantastic. They are not super violent or anything. It just occurred to me that I really like Miranda July. She's really fucking weird and very cool. Yes, Blood Meridian. Do it. You're going to suffer a little bit as you read it, but that's the point. I can't just anyway, I won't go on. This is not a book stream. Well, The Road, if you want something by Cormac McCarthy that's like easier to read than Blood Meridian, go with The Road. Very solid, very good, very interesting. More existential despair, but like not quite as bad as Blood Meridian. Anyway. Jesus Christ, where am I? I went off on a rant about books. The invention of full duplex twisted pair and fiber optic Ethernet coincided with the development of network switches, allowing network managers to build large networks based on switches and full duplex links. Switches have Ethernet interfaces or ports, but the operation of switch protocols is not part of the Ethernet standard. Okay. Instead, the operation of switches is specified in the IEEE 802.1 series of standards. Sorry, I'm talking real loud. I'm just gonna like push this away from me a little bit farther. Okay. Let's see. With the 802.1d standard providing the specifications for basic switches, you can build a wide variety of networks with switches. There are switches designed for campus and enterprise networks, switches with special capabilities for data centers, switches that support carrier and long distance, long distance networks, and more. Network design based on switches is a big topic with its own literature, based on the type of network being developed. There are books on campus and enterprise network design, as well as on data center networks. This is a book on Ethernet standards and technology, and we don't have the space to provide an in-depth treatment, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we get it. No one's asking you to give us like an overview of data center networks. Okay, the future of Ethernet. I think we're towards the end of we're towards the end of chapter 1. Ethernet has come a long way since 10 megabits per second Ethernet became the world's first open standard for computer networking in the 1980s. As you can see, the Ethernet system has been reinvented to provide more flexible and reliable cabling to accommodate the rapid increase in network traffic with higher speeds and to provide more capabilities for today's complex network systems. Ethernet has been able to meet these challenges while maintaining the same basic structure and operation and doing it all at a reasonable cost. This fundamental stability, combined with the ability to evolve to meet new needs, is at the core of Ethernet's success. You know what? That's a beautiful story. It's, it started out like a fairy tale. It got a little bit less fairy tale-ish as we went on. That's probably my fault. But what a nice story. The story of Ethernet. I hope some of you are asleep dreaming peacefully now. Oh man, I don't know if I should be excited or scared of this next chapter. IEEE Ethernet standards. Yeah, that was a lot for one go. So I set aside 2 hours to do this fucking stream. I wasn't sure how dense it was going to be. I'm sensing that was very dense for one go. So what I'll probably do is wait for chapter 2 until next time, which I'm going to be streaming on Thursday at the same time that I started today. That session should also be recorded, and if everything goes well today, I will have both chapter 1 and chapter 2 up on YouTube probably by the early next week or the end of the weekend. So anyway, I say optimistically. Yeah, IEEE. Anyway, so this has been fun. This has been interesting. I think this might have been my first Twitch stream. I don't remember. Thank you for joining me. It's been fun. I hope you're either like super sleepy right now or relaxed, or somehow you were riveted by the fairy tale of Ethernet. The story of Ethernet, how it was freed from the evil Xerox tyranny corporation. It became open standard and is now, one with the people, etc. Thanks, y'all. I'll be back on Thursday. Have a good one. Happy holidays. I hope you're all on vacation right now and enjoying your time doing whatever the fuck you're doing. And I'm very honored that you decided to join me for even an hour of that time. Have a wonderful holiday, and I will see you on Thursday.